want to start with a story I've never told publicly before. There was a moment in my life, right after a heartbreak, career failure, and a serious brush with depression, where I sat on the floor of my kitchen at 2:13 in the morning, surrounded by takeout containers and the echo of silence. I had just received a message that my dream job was going to someone else. Again. And the worst part, they didn't even bother to tell me. I found out through a colleague's celebratory post. I remember thinking, is this how it's always going to be? Me, underestimated, overlooked, forgotten. But here's the truth, I didn't know then. They weren't seeing the real me. And maybe, just maybe, I hadn't shown them yet. This speech, it's for anyone who's ever felt unseen, unheard, uninvited to the table you know you deserve to sit at. And the way we rise, it's not by pretending, it's by outsmarting them. Not with ego, but with elegance. Not with vengeance, but with vision. Before starting, please like, subscribe, comment, and share the channel in Brene Brown style, without mention her 20-40 words. Silence isn't weakness. I used to think it was. I used to believe that if I wasn't speaking up, explaining myself, or defending my worth at every turn, that I was somehow giving up my place in the room. That silence meant surrender. But now I know something different. Silence can be sacred. It can be strong. It can be the most powerful response in a world that thrives on noise and demands immediate reactions. We live in an age where people feel pressured to constantly prove their existence through posts, responses, opinions, and visibility. But here's the truth they don't tell you. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most grounded. And this is a new perspective. In this age where values like carelessness, coldness, authenticity are values like ground, sometimes they're just the most afraid. When you choose silence not out of fear, but out of clarity, you're not giving up your power, you're conserving it. I remember a season in my life when I was being tested. Words were being twisted behind my back, assumptions made about me, and false stories told in rooms I wasn't in. My instinct was to rush in and fix it, to plead my case, to explain, defend, and protect my name. But something in me, the wiser part of me, told me to wait, to pause, to hold. So I did something that scared me more than confrontation. I stayed silent. And in that silence, I found myself. I found that I didn't need to prove my innocence to people committed to misunderstanding me. I didn't need to broadcast my journey for people to take it seriously. I didn't need to win their approval to move forward. Instead, I used that silence to reflect, to journal, to cry, to pray, to rebuild the parts of me that were exhausted from performing. That silence became my retreat and slowly my revival. And when I finally spoke again, I didn't need to defend myself. My growth spoke for me. You see, silence isn't the absence of strength. It's the container that holds it. Just like a seed buried in the dark, hidden beneath layers of soil, it's not inactive. It's inactive. It's preparing. It's transforming. It's doing the invisible work of becoming. And that's you. If you've been feeling the pull to step back, to go inward, to stop explaining your every move, honor that. That's not giving up. That's gathering up. Let them wonder where you've gone. Let them guess what you're doing. Let the silence do what your words never could. Build a mystery so potent, so grounded, that when you finally emerge, whole, healed, and rooted, they won't even recognize you. This is where we work to build our bodies, to climb our feet, to crawl on our beds, to comb and to comb, to clean and to clean, and to cold and fet. That's what allows your body to heal. It takes so much practice, so much work to crown a man and keep him once in you. Not because you've become someone else, but because you've finally come home to yourself. There is no armor in the world like knowing who you are, and not just the curated version of you, not the resume, not the carefully worded bio, not the version people approve of or applaud. I mean the real you, the one you meet in the mirror when everything else falls away. Titles, roles, performance, expectation, the one who exists beneath the masks. Radical self-awareness isn't a buzzword, it's a quiet revolution. And if you want to outsmart the people who underestimate you, if you want to move through this life with grace and grit, then you have to start there, with that deep, uncomfortable, beautiful reckoning of who you actually are. I learned this the hard way. There was a season in my life where I was reactive to everything. Someone criticized my work, and I'd spiral. Someone ignored me in a meeting, and I'd overthink for days. I carried so many invisible wounds that I didn't know were still bleeding. And when people poked at them, even unintentionally, I flinched, defended, crumbled. It wasn't until I started asking myself the hard questions that things began to shift. Why do I need everyone to like me? Why does their silence feel like rejection? Why does a simple no trigger shame in me? I didn't like the answers, but I respected them. Because the moment I stopped blaming the world for misunderstanding me and started understanding myself, everything changed. Self-awareness doesn't mean you fix everything overnight. It means you begin to see the patterns, the stories you've inherited, the defense mechanisms you use, the ways you shrink or lash out or numb. And when you see those clearly, they lose their power over you. You become intentional. You become discerning. You stop reacting and start responding from a grounded place, not a wounded one. There's a story I carry with me, a moment where someone in a professional circle tried to bait me. They made a passive-aggressive remark in front of others, clearly trying to undermine my competence. The old me would have taken the bait, would have tried to prove my worth in real time, but I'd done the work. I recognized what was happening not just in them, but in me. So I smiled gently, said nothing, and kept moving. I didn't need to win that moment because I was already winning the war within myself. And you know what happened? That same person eventually circled back months later and asked for my insight. Quiet power earns respect long before loud reactions ever do. When you know yourself, really know yourself, you stop handing other people the remote control to your emotional state. You understand your triggers, your blind spots, your inner child's voice. You forgive the messier parts of yourself without letting them drive the car. This is how you outsmart people who thrive on emotional chaos, by becoming the calm they can't disturb. You don't need to control the room when you can regulate your soul. You don't need to match their energy. You become the one who sets the tone. And that kind of grounded presence, that's rare. That's magnetic. That's the kind of power they never see coming because it's not based on domination, it's based on mastery, inner mastery. So no, this isn't about changing who you are. It's about meeting who you are and choosing to stay with that person through discomfort, through fear, through healing. And when you do, one of the greatest gifts life ever gave me was being underestimated. I didn't know it at the time. It felt like rejection, like being passed over, pushed aside, dismissed. You know the feeling? When someone looks at you and decides, without knowing your story, that you're not the one, that you're too quiet, too soft, too slow, too weird, too sensitive, too something to be taken seriously. But being underestimated, that's a hidden blessing. Because when people don't see you coming, they don't see you building. And that gives you space, precious, sacred space, to grow without their projections weighing you down. I remember one of my first real jobs. I was the youngest person on the team by a solid 10 years. Every meeting, I sat at the edge of the table while more experienced voices dominated the conversation. They asked me to take notes, not because it was my role, but because they assumed that's all I was good for. For months, I played along. I listened more than I spoke, not out of fear, but out of strategy. I was gathering information, learning the rhythms of the room, watching how decisions were made, studying power, not the loud kind, but the quiet kind that moves things forward. And then one day, someone got sick mid-projection, and a presentation had to be delivered. Fast. Everyone panicked. No one stepped up. So I did. I took the notes I had written, turned them into a coherent plan, and stood up, literally and metaphorically, and presented the entire strategy. Not perfectly, not polished, but with clarity, conviction, and a quiet kind of confidence they hadn't seen from me before. The room was stunned. I could feel the energy shift. The same people who had looked past me now looked at me. Really looked. But the truth is, I had always been that capable. They just hadn't seen it because I hadn't needed them to. That moment taught me something I'll never forget. When people underestimate you, they hand you a kind of freedom. The freedom to grow without their expectations. The freedom to focus on the work, not the image. The freedom to fail, learn, adapt, without the pressure of constantly having to prove yourself. It's like being a seed again. You're underground, in the dark, and everyone's too busy watching what's already blooming. But deep below, your roots are forming. Your strength is multiplying. You are becoming someone unstoppable. In silence, in stillness, in secret. So if they don't believe in you yet, good. That means you get to rise without their noise in your head. That means you get to shape your own definition of success without bending to theirs. That means you get to write your story without needing their permission to begin. There's a strange kind of power in being overlooked, because while their backs are turned, you get to become something they never even thought to prepare for. And one day, not out of revenge, but out of revelation, you will walk into the room fully formed, deeply rooted, and undeniably ready. And they will say, "Where did you come from?" And you'll smile because you know the truth. You were never late. You were just growing in peace. That is the kind of rise no one sees coming, and that is your advantage. So don't rush to be seen. Don't beg to be chosen. Don't chase recognition. Build, heal, prepare. And when the time is right, arrive. Quietly, powerfully, and completely, ready to own the space you were once told you didn't belong in. There comes a moment in your journey when you have to choose, and it's not between success and failure, it's between your values and your image. And I'll tell you right now, that choice will define the kind of life you build more than any degree, title, or follower count ever will. We are conditioned deeply, quietly, relentlessly to protect our image, to curate our presence, to perform the version of ourselves that gets the most applause. We smile when we want to cry. We say yes when everything in our body is screaming no. We pretend to be okay because it's easier than explaining why we're not. But eventually, that catches up to you. There was a time in my life when I was chasing approval more than purpose. I was being praised constantly for my positivity, my composure, my professionalism. But underneath that mask was someone exhausted, disconnected, and slowly crumbling under the pressure of perfection. I remember sitting in a coffee shop with a friend who knew the real me. He looked at me and said, "You're doing an amazing job of being who they want you to be, but where did you go?" That question landed like a stone in my gut, because the truth was, I had started betraying myself in small, quiet ways. Not all at once. It doesn't happen like that. It's more subtle. You compromise a little here, you keep quiet when you should speak up, you accept things that go against your gut, and slowly, without even realizing it, you become a well-liked stranger to yourself. That was the moment I realized my values, honesty, kindness, courage, depth, were being sacrificed on the altar of a carefully managed image. And that's when I made the hardest, best decision of my life. I stopped performing. I started honoring my no. I started owning my truth. I started walking away from people and spaces that demanded I shrink to fit. And yes, I lost things. I lost comfort. I lost approval. I lost relationships that were built on the version of me I could no longer sustain. But you know what I gained? Peace. The kind of peace that comes from walking in alignment with who you truly are, not who the world expects you to be. There's a moment in every transformation when you're asked to disappoint others so you can stop abandoning yourself. That moment is sacred. And when you choose integrity over image, something wild and beautiful happens. You stop living from the outside in, and you start living from the inside out. You realize that you'd rather be misunderstood for being honest than loved for being a lie. You understand that authenticity isn't always applauded, but it's always powerful. People might not always agree with you. They might question your choices. They might distance themselves from the parts of you that no longer fit their narrative. But let them walk away. Because your values, they are not accessories. They are your roots. And the deeper your roots, the more unshakable your life becomes. I'll tell you something raw and real. When you stop caring so much about how you're perceived and start caring more about how you're aligned, you won't need to be seen to feel secure. You'll be able to stand in a room where no one claps and still feel proud of the way you showed up. You'll sleep better at night knowing you were honest, even when it cost you. You'll move through life with a quiet, grounded kind of confidence that can't be manufactured because it comes from within. And that kind of self-trust is magnetic. It's rare, it's revolutionary. So when the moment comes, and it will come, when you have to choose between preserving your image or protecting your integrity, choose you. Choose your voice. Choose your peace. Choose the version of you that doesn't need to be liked to know you're lovable. They may not see you coming, but when you arrive with your soul intact, you won't need to prove a thing. Because truth walks in with its head held high and doesn't look back. There's something quietly extraordinary about a person who decides to keep going after they've been broken. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a small, steady decision day after day to rise, to breathe, to take one more step, even with a heart still mending and a spirit still sore from being underestimated, misunderstood, or misused. You want to outsmart the world? Want to do something they never see coming? Heal. That's the most unexpected move of all. Because we live in a world that teaches revenge, not restoration. We're taught to show them, win at all costs, prove your worth. But real power, real revolution, is choosing not to let the pain turn you bitter, choosing not to become like those who hurt you. It's not about forgetting what happened. It's about not allowing it to define your future. It's about using the hurt as fuel, not to destroy, but to create, to rebuild yourself from a place of wisdom, not wounding. I think we all have moments we don't talk about, private battles that don't make it to the highlight reel. Maybe it was the betrayal you didn't see coming, the opportunity that slipped through your fingers, the dream that shattered midair, the version of yourself you had to let go of just to survive. But here's what I've learned through every heartbreak, every loss, every time I had to start again. The healing you do in silence will one day speak louder than the pain that tried to break you. There was a time I thought healing meant closure, that I needed an apology, a resolution, a neatly tied ending to the chaos. But life rarely gives us that. Healing, I've found, is 1,000 tiny choices. To forgive without hearing I'm sorry, to let go without having all the answers, to love yourself through the parts of your story that still feel raw and unfinished. It's messy, it's non-linear. Some days you'll feel strong, and some days you'll feel like you've gone backwards. But every single time you choose compassion over self-judgment, that's healing. Every time you set a boundary and honor your energy, that's healing. Every time you say, I don't need to be perfect to be worthy, that's healing. And when you do that long enough, something incredible starts to happen. You become untouchable not because you're hard or guarded, but because you're whole. They can't manipulate you with guilt anymore. They can't trigger the old wounds that used to control you. They can't shake your identity. Because it's no longer rooted in how they see you, but in how you see yourself. Healing is a long game. It doesn't show up in flashy moments or grand gestures. It shows up in your resilience, in your patience, in your refusal to give up on yourself, no matter how many times you've been knocked down. And when you've done that work, the deep, inner, not for Instagram kind of work, you start to move differently. You stop needing to prove anything. You start attracting what you deserve, not what you're desperate for. You walk into rooms with quiet confidence because you've already made peace with your reflection. That's what they won't see coming. Not the applause, not the spotlight, not the comeback headline. The fact that you healed and didn't let the world make you hard. So if you're in the middle of it right now, if you're tired, uncertain, or caring more than people know, I want you to hear this. Your healing is not invisible. Your healing it's working. You are becoming stronger than the storm that tried to undo you. And when you rise from this, because you will, you won't just be successful. You'll be solid, rooted, unshakable, soft in your spirit, but steel in your spine. That's the most powerful version of you there is. And the most beautiful part, you never needed to announce it. You just needed to become it. Let that be your legacy. Not that you fought for a seat at their table, but that you built your own, healed your way into wholeness, and walked forward in truth so powerful they didn't even know how to name it. So here's what I want you to remember. Outsmarting them isn't about being better than them. It's about being better than the version of you who once believed you had to chase their validation to be worthy. Let them sleep on you. Let them doubt you. Let them misread your softness as weakness. Because while they're watching the noise, you're becoming the quiet storm. And when the time comes, they'll never see you coming. Because the real you doesn't need to be seen to be sovereign. Go softly, go wisely, go all in on your healing. The world isn't ready, but you are.